where is the brand supposed to live? Where's the home of the brand? Like I said in sort of my opening, we came from a 1.0 web, where we knew where our brand was supposed to be. It was on our domain. We would have a website, we would have a storefront, we'd have a bookshop or whatever it was, and we pull people into it. Now we don't have to. That's almost ancillary. We now have to be on Facebook. Maybe we can have a shop on Facebook. Maybe we don't. We have to be on Twitter. We have to be. Maybe we put it on Tumblr. We had an interesting debate with a client this week about whether to migrate their blog to Tumblr, or to keep it as a blog or move to another platform. So, where should the brand live? Should it live in multiple places? And if it does live in multiple places, how do you then manage your identity in multiple places but still tie it all back to the point that you are a brand, you do deserve a home, and you do need to centralize things? Anyone got any perspectives on that?
I do. I think it goes back to Chris's point earlier on about the 4-screen strategy. So I think it's thinking about what's most convenient for the user, which is the 4-screen strategy of, I'm here right now, this is the device I have, this is how I want to interact, this is how I want to engage. And I think, depending on your user base, depending on your target market, having a multiple, or essentially a 4-screen strategy across, be it social websites, be it anything else, telephone, mobile, web, whatever it is, it's thinking about the user, thinking about what's most convenient for the user to interact with your brand and transact with your brand. And so I think we're kind of going away from, you said at the beginning, this is my website, everybody goes to the .com website, that's it, to, well, what's easiest for you? Do you want an app? Do you want a mobile website? Do you want to engage with me on Twitter? Do you want to engage with me on Facebook? Do you want to engage with me on YouTube, Google+, Tumblr, Pinterest? Is that how you pronounce it? I've only ever seen it written down. Pinterest? Okay, I was always there. So it's one of those words I don't hear said. And so I think you should always think about what's easiest. And I think that's right, because I'm a user, as a customer, I shouldn't be made choose. And that's, I think, probably the way to go. Where does the brand live? The brand should be, if you have a brand, the brand should be strong enough to live across all of these. They should all integrate, and I'm sure there's some great strategies about making everything integrate, one voice, one message, and how leveraging the inherent advantages of a particular platform, particular format, to its full advantage.
I think that's one of the points for us. I suppose the big word is probably adaptation, and it's understanding the brand with which you sat behind, and then adapting it. Our Twitter strategy is very much different to what we do from a Facebook point of view, which is again different to what we do from a Google Plus point of view. But again, it's taking the unique advantages of each platform and relating that back for the brand and understanding how it should manifest itself out to your customer base.
Yeah, I mean, I in total agreement. I sat on a panel only a few months ago for Nominet, which was, as they sort of admitted at the end, was not the most exciting conference, but it was actually quite good by the time they got to the end of it. And I was sitting on a panel with a lot of domain name operators and registrars, and one of the domain operators was lambasting brands for choosing to place themselves on Facebook. And I think he had a particular go at L'Oreal, who had decided to have facebook.com/L'Oreal throughout their Super Bowl ad, and with the sort of the message of, well, why do we want to drive all our traffic to another media owner? Why do we want to create equity for another organisation? Why do we want to put our brand somewhere else? We need to be educating the user on all these new domains and these domain name extensions, and we need to be, and I sort of sat there, like, well, firstly, who are you trying to educate? Because you're not educating the users, and you can't educate. There's no point educating the brands, because as far as the user is concerned, the domain is whatever you tell them it is. And I think that this 4-screen strategy, the idea of the user being the central point, and them choosing to engage with brands across any medium, fundamentally means that the domain isn't necessarily the central point, and brands do need to be able to coexist on lots of different platforms, and you can't tell the user, this is my domain, you must all come to my domain, because they're going to congregate in the networks that they find are the most useful to them.
What I find so interesting about all of this is that people seem to think, well, I have to stick to one, like you said, stick to one strategy, one location, one area, And if you look at retail methods, before there was online shopping, you had a bunch of different retail stores. And they were all slightly different. They had different staff, slightly different personalities. They all knew the brand and they were all consistent with it, but it was their own personalities. That's basically what's happening online. It's like each little avenue is a different store or a different venue for interaction. They're all going to have their own little personality, but if you have the central brand part down, it doesn't really matter. Everything should tie in nicely. But I think the scary part is frankly, companies have gotten lazy and they don't know who they are. So then they come to the point where they have to have more than a site and they have to have a Facebook and Twitter. They don't have anything to talk about because they don't know who they are. All they know is that I've been black and red logo for 3 years, and sometimes I put products on my page. Or sometimes I have, sometimes I change the color in my gaming. Like, that's all they know. And I think that's the scarier part that we're hitting right now, is that companies, frankly, just don't know who they are. They're a company, but they're not a brand, and you have to be a brand to be able to be successful in all the other channels.
It's true, we're seeing this across a lot of our client base. I think brands are playing catch up to the consumer. The consumer's almost leading this as opposed to the brands themselves. So, I'm countlessly sitting in client meetings saying, when you're going to have a mobile site, and the opportunity's there. It's a prime opportunity for you to take advantage of this kind of full screen or multi-channel or multi-device kind of environment that we're all living in now. And even as a consumer myself, I wouldn't just use one device or one channel, I've used multiple channels. And it's not because I'm deliberately doing that, it's because your brain just automatically does that these days. So you're right, it's down to the brand to kind of play catch up and then find their identity before, and get ahead of the consumer. So they are able to present something that is unified across all channels and devices.
Just an interesting one for me, at an agency like Greenlight, when you're meeting with clients, when you're on a pitch, I'm sure you see clients that, arrive almost hitting the panic button. We're not on Facebook, we need to be on Facebook. We haven't got a Twitter account, we need to be on a Twitter account. How do you work with these clients? What do you advise them? Because from where I'm sitting, not all these avenues are right for every particular brand. How do you deal with that when you're faced with that in a client meeting?
Well,
where does one start?
Exactly. I think the last point you made is probably where you start. Is trying to identify who the client is and the people that they're looking at. So we do obviously need to understand who they are as a brand, and it's a good idea for them to understand who they should know who they are as a brand as well. So it's essentially building a strategy from understanding the brand and the consumers they're trying to attract. So you shouldn't just be ticking a box saying I need a Facebook page just because everyone else has got one. And that includes your competitors. Is it right for you as a brand? Is it where your consumers are going to? Sure. So there's not really a one single, this is what we would do with all clients, but it's about creating a bespoke approach that allows them to communicate with their consumers on whatever basis.
I think we also find that the majority of brands that come to us already have some level of presence set up. So they have a Facebook page, they have a Twitter account, and I think it goes back to Anna's point, which is, but they don't know what to do with it. Okay, so I picked up the megaphone, I switched it on, and nothing came out, and we didn't really know what to say, and we don't know how to address all these people, we don't know how to stimulate them, and even if we did, we don't know where to take them or what to do with them. And so I think that's given rise to a substantial discipline of content strategy, getting a brand voice, and a discipline that you would almost call brand-tainment, really, which is less about just saying, hey, we've got a price promo, hey, we're doing this, hey, you're still there, hey, by the way, we're still here, hey, here's a barrel scraping excuse just to stay in sort of contact, and just sort of push it out on the email and find new strategies, which I know Anna's been doing a lot of at the moment, to basically engage with the audience and rediscover who you are. And you do have to ask those questions. Who are you? What are your values? What does your customer want? And when you do start probing those areas, so phenomenal strategies come out of the woodwork, which then integrate with a little bit of Facebook and require a little bit of Twitter usage as well. And maybe you can build a little site and put it on a Tumblr, and maybe you can do some blogger outreach, and maybe you can sew it all together to deliver a sort of an integrated strategy to converse with the customer for the first time. And I think that's what it is that people have forgotten how to talk to the customer.
I think there's a distinction that needs to be made between engaging and acquisition. Is it about acquiring new customers, in which case you shouldn't be going anywhere near social media? If you just want to drive acquisitions, stick to PPC. If you want to actually engage and start a discussion, start a dialogue, open yourself up to some feedback, open yourself up to some criticism, take it on board, address it. yeah, there's a lot of value in using multiple social media channels.
Can I pull you up on a point there, sir? Because you,
I was going to as well.
sorry, don't worry, I'm on it. Well, you mentioned if you want to, and I'll rein myself back because there's no right or wrong answer to this question. But you said if you want acquisition, don't go to social, and you'd probably be half tempted to agree with that. And I'm just wondering if you've got a justification, or maybe you've been once bitten, twice shy, or
No, I haven't been once bitten, twice shy. In my experience, looking at the analytics that I've seen, I would say that social media is very good for engaging existing customers, extending their lifetime value, reactivating old customers, generating referrals from existing users who already have a positive experience working with your brand, rather than driving brand new business, cold business.
Wouldn't those referrals technically be acquisition though? Is it just a referral model now instead of a straight to consumer acquisition model? And in a way, is the referral model kind of better because they come in with a
I think as well it
warm
depends
fuzzy?
what you define as social media. I think if you look at, say, within the gaming sector, within the affiliates,
Yeah.
the biggest affiliates have massive communities.
And they use the communities to get
And
most
it's
of their
and it kind of goes back to the nature, like your point at the very beginning of, the internet was you go to a .com website. Well, the internet back in the very days, as you know, was bulletin boards, and it was ICQ was always very social. But if you look at particularly big affiliates, it's discussion forums, it's particularly discussion
Yeah.
forums. It's huge.
Education as well.
Education, yeah.
It can-
And I think
Well,
Betfair
I
is
was going
probably
to say,
the prime example.
yeah, it
of
comes
this.
down to the operator. And we are effectively, a large community, given that we're, peer to peer in everything that we do, and customer referral is one of our biggest acquisition channels, and we encourage it because of the education factor of Betfair. Bringing a customer onto Betfair is quite a scary experience. The first time they go and see a lay side of a market. We have ridiculous bounce rates from customers that just will never get it. And one of the constant arguments we have internally is, when do we educate? Do we educate before a customer gets to Betfair, or do we spend a lot of money educating a potentially worthless customer? And I would kind of agree with a few points. We originally set out from our social strategies very much around retention, upsell, cross-sell, reactivating lapsed customers, but I think we have grown over the last year to understand the acquisition benefits, and tying it a lot back into some of the kind of core ethos elements that we have through being a community-based website.